this just shows you, you don't have to be big to accomplish big things. I tell people, I say, you know, missionaries are just ordinary people that God's asked to do an extraordinary job. But He opens the doors. And if He hadn't have opened the doors, there's no way we could have done what we did. We're now in 3 counties. And yet there's just 3 of us. So we're praying for more helpers, believe me, because we would like to take the gospel. There are 17 counties in this state of Mozambique where we work. It's called Cabo Delgado. But yet there's only missionaries working in 6 of those counties. So you see, there's still a lot of room for growth. All right, we're going to switch gears here. And I want to tell you a little bit about what's happened in the first 22 years I was over there. The book is about the first 13 years of miracles that I saw. I have almost been killed 20 times in 22 years, most of it by striking snakes. We've had to deal with leopard and lion, lots of baboons. And you think baboons are just monkeys? Honey, try again. They got 2-inch canines on them, honey. They'll take you out in a second. Okay, especially if you walk in the midst of them, like I did. That was dumb. But anyway, I was in the fog and I couldn't see them. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little preview. And then I'm going to tell you one story and then I'm going to give you a little preview. When I first got to Mozambique, you know, I'm an animal lover. So I went out to feed children. We were feeding 5,000 children in a soup camp. We literally would make soup in 55-gallon drums over an open fire to feed these children in war-torn Mozambique. Okay, so I went out to this camp, and I almost ran over a landmine as I was going. I mean, I didn't understand the language yet, and the Mozambican pastor was sitting next to me. And by the way, we drive on the left-hand side of the road. So our steering wheel is on the right. Pastor was sitting over here, and I'm coming up on this huge stick sitting in the middle, standing up in the middle of the road, and I'm going, now what is that stick doing in the middle of the road? And he's going, Minas. And I went, Minas? I didn't understand. He goes, and so I just keep driving towards this stick, and he's going, boom! And I went, oh, mines! Okay. And then I whipped around and took off and got to the camp. But this guy shows up at the camp with this little baby deer in his hand. And it would fit in my hand to show you how small that deer was. It looks to be about 4 days old. He said, I shot the mother, and I'm going to eat her. But I said, do you want to buy the baby? And so I did for 50 cents. I bought this baby deer. I took it home and used my neonatal training with my little feeding tubes, and I tube fed that deer until it learned to suck from a straw, because I didn't have any bottles with nipples or anything. So I trained it up. And so Bambi grew, and soon was too big to sleep under my bed, and she kept waking me up at night, so I put her out in a chicken pen out back. Now I'm standing in my kitchen one Sunday afternoon, and Bambi's out in the chicken pen, and I normally feed her every 4 hours with her milk, and it was 3:30 in the afternoon. I feed at 4. And suddenly I hear the Lord say very clearly, feed now. Well, I looked at my watch and I said, it's too early. He said, feed now. I said, yes, sir. I mixed up the milk, walked out there. Now, I had prayed for Bambi's safety because we had a lot of dangerous animals in the area that would love to eat Bambi, including 2-legged critters like humans. And so I opened the door to this pen. Now, let me describe this pen. It was about 3 foot this way, 5 foot this way, 5 foot tall, had a little grass roof, dirt floor. It was 3 bamboo walls, but on the front it had chicken wire so you could see into the pen. So I opened the door. I had to step over a petition to get in, and I froze because Bambi was frozen. And when a deer freezes and doesn't flick an ear or blink an eye, you know there's deadly danger nearby. At the same time I see Bambi and I freeze, I hear a ka-thunk in the corner. There was an old chicken nest in that right-hand corner, and it was made like an Indian teepee out of grass. Little hole in the front so the chicken could go in and have privacy while she laid her egg. From that hole flopped a brown tail, and I thought, rat. And then it flipped over, and it was brilliant green, and I went, snake! It started thumping inside that deal. It was going round and around like it couldn't find the door. It gave me the 1 second I needed, because I wasn't leaving Bambi behind. I reached down. I am less than 2 feet from the snake, and I pulled up Bambi, and as I'm leaning back, the snake finds the entrance to get out of there and shoots in front of me, missing me by 6 inches, and hits the bamboo wall to my left. By that time, I've got my foot out, I've slammed the door, and I'm yelling, "Cobra, cobra," because in Portuguese that means snake, snake. And the workers came running. Now, we don't have guns in Mozambique. We're a gunless nation. Only the banditos, the cops, and the military have guns. So my workers have to kill all the snakes with a bamboo rod. This snake hit the wall going at 7 miles an hour. It missed me. It was a 4-foot green mamba, and it missed me at 4 feet. So it hits the wall, and it stuns so hard that the snake is literally sitting there doing this. It was shook up. And when I started yelling, "Cobra, cobra," it literally took off. It got over its being stunned. It went back under the back wall and took off across an open pasture that had no grass on it. It was just dirt. The men ran with the snake and were cracking it until they snapped its back, because when it's running, it can't strike. So they broke its back and killed the snake. Now I'm back over at the chicken pen screaming at God. "You didn't send me out here. What are you trying to do? Get me killed?" You know? And you know what? After I calmed down, poor Bambi was shaking like a leaf, you know, and so was I. I heard him say, "I had to teach you that where I send you, I can and I will protect you." I said, "Okay, but we don't need any more object lessons," you know. So I also want you to know that he showed me one other thing. He said, "Remember the mouth of the snake?" And I thought about it for a second, and I reflashed that picture of that snake going in front of me. And do you know that that snake's mouth was shut tight when it went past me? It should have been wide open. Snakes do not strike except to bite. And they always strike with their mouth open. But his mouth was closed, and he hit the wall just like this. Okay? So I thought, yeah, his mouth was closed. He says, "Just as I closed the mouth of the lions for Daniel, I closed the mouth of that snake so that even if you were too slow, you wouldn't have been bit." So I thought, okay. And that is how he taught me to have unconditional trust when he tells me to go somewhere, because I've had to go many, many places that no man's ever tread. I've had to cross bridges where the logs roll as you go. And they were not short bridges. They were 90 yards across on rivers that were 35 feet below you. I have had black mambas under my bed 3 times in the first years I was staying there in a mud, because I lived in a mud hut with a grass roof and a dirt floor. I found out that snakes can open doors. I did not know that. You live in Africa, put a latch on your screen door. Okay, so I have been struck at 3 times and walked away from it. Just 6 weeks ago, I want you to know how angry Satan was when Rabia began to walk, because it just dawned on me this morning, the timing. When Rabia began to walk in November, it was right behind that. In fact, it was the next Sunday after that, if I remember right, because I couldn't get out there because it had rained and the roads were too slippery and I couldn't get out there. So Robbie had started to walk, and that was a great miracle that the whole village, a village of 5,000 people, suddenly saw that Jesus has great power. And so he came after me, but in a very unusual way. In midday on that following Sunday, we were all sitting on my veranda eating lunch when these crows outside were sitting up above our tin roof. We have a screened-in porch with a tin roof, and we were all eating, and the crows were yelling so loud, caw, caw, that we couldn't even talk to each other. That's how loud they were. There's about 10 of them out there. So I keep rocks outside, and I go out and chunk them with these crows and run them off. They're obnoxious. And so I got up to go run off the crows, and as I got up, the crows went dead silent. They could not see me. They could not see anything going on in it because we had a carport outside, and they couldn't see anything going on. They were above it. So I walked over to the screen, and I was looking up, and I was going, now, what's wrong with you guys? And they were just sitting there. And there was nothing on the ground. I couldn't see anything that would have caused them in the natural to go quiet. So I said, they're going to start a racket in just a minute. So I went back, I walked back around the table, and I'm going out the door, and as I go out the door there's a passageway that's 5 feet long, and then my office is on the other side of that, and it's all under one roof. There's a carport out here, and my old Toyota King Cab, it was 12 years old, was sitting there. I opened the door and I stepped out, and when I did, I turned and I froze. I was looking into the eyes of an 8-foot black mamba. Now, if you think black mambas aren't dangerous, we're going to show you a DVD. But I'm going to cut this story really short because I forgot. We're going to show the DVD right now. These mambas can move at up to 12 miles an hour. They can stand up to half their length. They can jump more than 10 feet to strike. They are the fastest snake in the world. Needless to say, this bunny did her hop, and it was a hop backwards. I hopped straight back into the house and slammed the door. That snake took off. I was yelling, "Cobra, Cobra," to get my guards over there with their sticks, and when they got there, they couldn't find it. That snake, his trail ended at the wheel of my car. He went up into the car's engine and worked his way into the framework somewhere. We never found that snake to this day. And you say, "Well, what did you do with the car?" I said, "I sold it." I was selling it anyway, but that just sped up the process. But we know that that night, most likely, the snake got out of the car and left. He did not get to be 8 foot long by being stupid, but he knew how to hide. Now, we're going to take you back to Mozambique with a little film clip here, and you're going to see how powerful the mamba is.